We have already done 2 episodes on this show about why Democrats are poised to lose the 2022 midterms and why they ruin everything that they touch. Both times, we thought, this is rock bottom for them. There is no way they could possibly make this worse. But where there's a will, there's a way. Democrats have managed to dig themselves even deeper into the void, sealing their fate come November. And now, they're trying desperately to shift the focus towards any issue where they don't look absolutely incompetent. You're watching Politics Corner. Stay tuned.
Hey folks, welcome to Politics Corner. Hey Ishaan.
Hello, Pallavi. So today we're talking about Democrats, our favorite subject, right? We've already done 2 episodes on this. Third one, right? The first one we did was about why Democrats are about to get their butts kicked in 2022.
Right.
The second one was Democrats destroy everything. This was my favorite because it was Kamala Harris laughing maniacally in front of a sunken Statue of Liberty in front of this like doomsday image, just going ha 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 ha. Look, we can do another episode where we talk about Democrats' actual failures in terms of policies, but it's time because right now the referendum is coming in.
Yeah.
November is going to be a big month for politics altogether in America.
Right.
When we have our midterm election. So right now I want to talk about what are voters thinking? Let's just see how the scores came in. Well,
Okay.
a recent ABC poll, this was just a couple days ago, showed that 7 in 10 Americans disapprove of Biden's handling of inflation. That is an insane statistic. That's a lot of agreement.
And I think it makes sense.
Of course it does. You know, 50% of respondents say that inflation is a key issue for them and that they trust Republicans more compared to only 30% who say they would trust Democrats more.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's definitely reflected in the administration's approval. I mean, depending on your poll, Biden's approval is hovering around the 30s. You know, sometimes you get a low 40s, high 20s, but generally in the 30s. That's pretty low.
Yeah, but still higher than I'd expect, to be honest.
Well, I mean, you know, all politicians, they sort of have a floor.
Yeah.
Because there's those extremist voters who will just vote along party lines no matter what.
True.
But I think what we're noticing here is he's not capturing the critical voters for any election, and that is the swing voters and the independent voters.
The intelligent voters.
Yes, those are the kind of voters that we try to cultivate here. But, I mean, it's the same for Kamala Harris, by the way. I was really surprised because Kamala Harris's approval rating is way down in the 20s, and nobody even sees her that much. So it really shows that when we see her coming out onto a podium and talking about NASA, like kind of like a 8th grader who had a presentation that they forgot was due.
And forgot the
And like they're writing it
notes.
they're writing it on the back of like a lunch napkin.
Precisely. I mean, I was very excited when I had, when Kamala Harris was chosen as Biden's nominee because, to me it felt like, okay, I expected good things from her. I was like, here's a smart, educated Black woman who's really going to show, basically be a role model. But Kamala Harris has been a solid disappointment, honestly. Like, I feel, I'm actually shocked. Like, if you look at her resume, it's pretty illustrious, right? She had a pretty illustrious career.
Of course, but, I think it was Ben Shapiro who said she failed upwards constantly. She failed at being an attorney general. She made the California crime rate skyrocket. Then she became a senator. She failed there, so then she became the vice president. She failed upwards in politics.
Yeah.
And
I mean, and while that is you're probably not wrong, it's just that maybe as a senator or an attorney general, her lack of accomplishments weren't as visible. But being a vice president, there's nowhere to hide.
The spotlight's on you.
The spotlight's on you all the time.
It also reflects their knack for deferring blame to other people. So, for example, right now, Joe Biden is trying to spin inflation. And it's no surprise that he does, okay? He has no issues in his administration that he can talk about. Okay, 58% of respondents, according to Pew, say education is a top issue for them. Do you trust Democrats on education?
Not at all.
Okay. 52% say reducing crime is. Do you think that Democrats have reduced crime for you?
They've decriminalized crime because, of course, crime is only done... No, wait, hold on. Crime happens and Black people are blamed. Ergo,
right.
Let's decriminalize crime so Black people don't get blamed. I mean,
sure.
What kind of shoddy logic is that?
Okay, 52% of respondents say they want to improve the job market. Do you think Democrats have done that well?
Not really.
Okay, 49% want to deal with illegal immigration. Have Democrats done that one well?
No, they've been disasters at dealing with illegal immigration.
These are all issues where Democrats are either coming short of ideal or just terribly incompetent.
Yeah.
So it's no surprise that Democrats are trying to spin the story. So this is what Joe Biden is trying to do with inflation.
Putin's price hike.
Putin's price hikes.
Putin's price hike.
Putin's price hike.
Putin price hike.
Putin price hike.
Putin price hike. Putin's price hike.
Wow.
Is it just me, or does he want you to blame Vladimir Putin for inflation? I could be picking up on something. It could just be me.
So I mean, as long as there's somebody else that we can hate, and we're all victims of Vladimir Putin, not the poor Ukrainians that he's invading, but us. We're the real victims here.
No, I mean, by the way, this is not just on press conferences. I'm looking at Biden's Twitter feed right now. I grew up in a family where when prices went up for things like gasoline, it became a discussion at the kitchen table. We felt it. Yeah. We feel it. We're talking about it. And you know who we're blaming? You.
Yeah, not Putin.
You want to bring down inflation? Let's make sure the wealthiest corporations pay their fair share. Anybody he can blame.
Yeah. And by the way, the real reason is because of that influx of trillions of dollars in stimulus checks that he printed and passed out and wastefully, and that's I mean, when you're flooding the economy with so much money, there's gonna be inflation.
Bill Maher did a bit about this where he found out that very little of the money that we wasted actually went to the intended purposes. A lot of it was just siphoned off. And so not only was it ineffective, but you were inflating the economy by just sending money to random projects that didn't really do anything.
But you're telling me that the president of Russia caused the situation in our country? How?
Well, no. Okay, I don't doubt that part of this was caused by Ukraine, but the problem is that argument falls flat when he tries to blame it on Ukraine entirely.
You mean Russia?
Well, I mean on the Ukrainian conflict. So yes, on Russia. The argument falls flat when he tries to blame it on them entirely.
The only thing you can blame, only the rising gas prices can be blamed on.
Even then, you can't blame that entirely on Russia.
And by the way, if you go back in January, way before any of this conflict had even started or these sanctions had even been imposed, inflation was already at 7%.
Exactly. And other nations would be having it hit just as hard if it was all just supply chain, if it was all just Russia. It's not.
How they spun the story, right? First it didn't exist, then it was transient, then it's good for you, then it's the corporations being greedy, then it's Putin. I mean, how many versions of this are we going to hear?
Right, and now we're getting the same shtick. But this one is my favorite. This is Joe Biden's Twitter. Republicans in Congress are deeply committed to protecting big corporations that they would rather raise taxes on working American families. My plan will lower your costs. I have more. Congressional Republicans' plan will lower your income. It's that simple. Okay, this guy is spinning so hard that the Earth's rotation is reversing course. Republicans control no part of the legislative or executive branch of government.
Yeah.
This is all on you.
Wow. So I'm just going to alternate between blaming Putin for inflation
and blaming corporations.
And blaming, no, not just corporations, but also
and
a House and Senate.
Republicans.
Yeah, a House and Senate that I have a majority.
I mean, the other thing here is Democrats are also kind of freaking out because all of their gerrymandered seats in New York, they all just got taken away. Okay, the New York Court of Appeals, which was, by the way, all 7 judges on the New York Court of Appeals were appointed by Democratic governors. What they basically said was that the legislature has to appoint a politically neutral party to draw them out. So they're not even giving them another shot to do it. The Republican gerrymandered seats in Texas, Tennessee, and Florida, they all remain upholded.
So that's wrong too, though.
That is wrong too, and I think that Republicans could have easily taken the House in a landslide without gerrymandering Democrats.
And here's the thing, right? If we talk about truly what's good for our country, it's to just get rid of this type of activities because these things polarize our nation further, and we don't win with that, right? Only the politicians win with that.
But back to referendum on Biden. I think that we need to address the elephant in the room, and that is that voters are a bit impulsive. Okay, they vote based on what they feel now, and they blame who's in power now. They don't vote based on hypothetical situations that might happen in the future. So, for example, right now there's a massive shortage of baby formula. This is harrowing people across the nation, especially mothers who are legitimately worried that they might not be able to get their infants food.
You know, it's funny you should say that, right? Like I recently had some WhatsApp messages, asking like, hey, if you spot this formula, please, buy and keep it, because they're scrambling and they're, like you said, worried that, they may not have enough over the next month or two.
Right. And so there's a couple different reasons for why this happened. It was contamination at a couple plants, then it was supply chain chokes, and then plants shutting down for COVID. Now they're trying to get restarted. At the end of the day, voters are going to blame Biden for it. And so Biden posted this video where he was like sitting in the Oval Office and just calling up baby formula executives, to show it's like big on his list and stuff. Check this out.
Tell me how things are going at your factory, and there's something you'd like us to be doing, you think we should be doing, we could be helpful.
Since in March and April, we've been able to introduce almost 50% more product supply into the marketplace.
Thank you very much for your cooperation. Thanks for what you're doing. Anything you think we should be doing or not, please call.
I'm very appreciative of your time and attention.
I love how he thinks that if he just plays some inspirational music in the back, that'll fix the fact that people are worried about their babies starving.
I mean, that call is just for optics. Come on.
Well, no. The real reason he called, it's because of what took place off of camera. All I'm going to say to that is, look, Joe, come on. We have a massive shortage of baby formula in the United States right now. You are 900 years old. You've got to switch to solids.
See?
You've got... Okay, I mean, but it's funny because this isn't genuinely Biden's fault. He didn't do this, but it happened on his watch. It's similar to like Trump and COVID. He didn't cause COVID, but it happened on his watch. He's going to be blamed for it, and his approval rating may or may not affect it, to be honest. He might have already hit his floor.
Were you just implying that Biden ate all the formula?
Maybe. Would you be surprised? So anyway, they can't talk about baby formula, and even if they do, they're just kind of touching on it because they know it's like an inescapable reality for everyday people.
Yeah.
But now they're trying to turn towards like favorable talking points, maybe. So the majority conservative Supreme Court had a draft leak of a ruling on a case called Dobbs v. Jackson that would overturn Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood v. Casey. Now, there's a couple myths here. First of all, getting rid of Roe and Casey will not get rid of all abortions in the United States. It just makes abortion, all it does is allow legislatures to pass laws relating to abortion without the interference of the court. Okay? So, nevertheless, there's tons of outrage over this because there's a lot of misinformation where people think that as soon as we get rid of Roe v. Wade, there will be no more abortions in the United States. That's simply untrue. But we have protests outside of justices' homes. We have a non-scalable wall outside of the Supreme Court. Justices are being moved to hiding, and Democrats could not love it more. So here is Elizabeth Warren just trying to fan the flames.
I am angry because of who will pay the price for this. We have reached the culmination of what Republicans have been fighting for, angling for decades now, and we are gonna...
I am angry, she says as she beats her chest like a gorilla. Could we have done that, by the way? Like, can you imagine how attacked conservatives would have been if, like, during Build Back Better, we were all hopping on podcasts just going like, I am angry.
This is what they always wanted, spending all our good money and wastefully, and now they're doing it when they were.
Yes, they always wanted this. You can't be mad that they now got it done. She's like, this is what they've been angling for decades now. You mean trying to get their justices on the court? Yeah, like you've been doing that too. We just got ahead.
Yeah. I mean, and this makes me angry because,
Oh, it makes you angry! Why? Why does it make you angry?
It makes me angry because, of the propaganda that she's doing over there, and she's just, sort of breeding hatred in the people that are listening to her.
Yeah, and this is the same crowd who went like unga bunga about January 6th. And don't get me wrong, January 6th was wrong. Nobody should have stormed the Capitol illegally. But no one should also be rioting outside of justices' homes, necessitating them to be moved to hiding and necessitating a non-scalable wall around the Supreme Court of the United States of America.
Yeah.
Those are all bad. Look, Democrats are trying to make a big song and dance about this, and there's a few reasons why it's not going to work. Okay, so first of all, as soon as the draft leak was confirmed, Chuck Schumer introduced a bill that would, according to him, codify Roe. It would not. It would codify Roe, but it wouldn't just codify Roe. It would make abortion legal throughout the United States until the point of birth. Okay? Literally until the point of delivery, abortion is legal. So that is way beyond what normal Roe v. Wade restrictions were, where pretty much that was only done during the first trimester, that you could just have an unrestricted kind of abortion. But that's why Joe Manchin actually voted against it. And then Democrats tried to kind of falsely assert that this was all because of the filibuster. The Republicans blocked it. Well, actually, even if the filibuster wasn't there, you wouldn't have achieved the votes necessary, because Joe Manchin voted against it. He knew it wasn't going to be passed, and I think he actually drafted the bill intentionally to make sure it wasn't passed, so he could say, look who blocked it.
Yeah.
Because this was just performative legislation. That's all this was.
But weren't you telling me that even if you look at, people who support abortion, only people in single digits supported up to the point of...
I think it's about 4%.
Up to the point... So when when they're Democratic based, like let's say 50% of the country is Democratic, and let's say these 4% from there, so the rest of their base, they're looking at these and looking at this bill and saying, my God, these leaders have gone off the deep end. Like, what are they thinking?
But see, it's not just that. When this decision comes out, the largely misinformed public who is thinking that when we get rid of Roe v. Wade, there's going to be no more abortions in the United States, they're going to be like, oh, my day-to-day life really hasn't changed. And then they're not going to vote based on that issue. Because what did I say earlier? People vote based on what they're experiencing right now and based on who's in power right now.
Yeah, I see your point there, right? Like, so Democrats would love for them to care about this,
but
they do, but not that much. Not as much.
Because right now, social issues rank very low on people's priority lists.
Pretty much, yeah.
And there's a couple of reasons why we know this. Texas basically outlawed abortion altogether like a year ago, and it didn't even move the needle on their state races. Okay, abortion will still be legal in basically every progressive area in the world, in like America. So all the people all those 4% that Democrats are trying to rally who support abortion until the point of birth, they're not going to experience a difference in their lives at all.
Yeah.
So this is a non-issue for Democrats that they're trying to turn into an issue because they can't talk about any of the real issues.
They can't talk about any of the real issues. They have nothing to say except like, yes, we screwed up, and who's that guy? Let's blame him.
Anyway, Pallavi, so abortion made the headlines for like a couple days, and then we all went back to talking about inflation, crime, all the things that are hurting people in their everyday lives.
Right.
And then we had a mass shooting in Buffalo, New York. Okay, this happened over the weekend, May 15th. Absolutely tragic. The Democratic Party leadership woke up, read the headline, and saw $3 signs in a row. This is how cold they are. So last Sunday, an unnamed white supremacist, we don't say the names of mass shooters on the show, they want notoriety, we're not going to give it to them. They shot up a supermarket in Buffalo, New York. Okay, the shooter wrote an 180-page manifesto about the Great Replacement Theory, in which blacks and Jews are supposedly replacing white people in America and degrading the racial value of our nation, which is utter nonsense, of course. But also please note that he put Ben Shapiro in the manifesto and listed him as a Jewish rat. Okay? He also said, conservatism is corporatism in disguise. I want no part of it. He was not a conservative, but he was a white supremacist. I'm against mass shootings. I don't care who knows it. Okay? But the Democratic media are trying to conflate white supremacy and conservatism as if they're the same thing, and that could not be further from reality.
Yeah.
Okay, so check this out. This is MSNBC.
Conservative host with one of the largest platforms is pushing the racist idea that white people are under threat of extinction. And of course, it is all a Democratic plot.
The Democratic Party is trying to replace the current electorate, the voters now casting ballots, with new people, more obedient voters from the third world.
And it's not just MSNBC, by the way. I think this is all over the media, how Fox News has been responsible for this mass shooting.
Yeah, I mean, New York Times, the Washington Post, Democracy Now! It's everywhere, okay?
So they're basically conflating replacement theory and conservatism in one breath.
And it's completely different. There's a very important distinction here.
Yeah,
Talking about immigration,
no similarity, actually.
Talking about immigration is completely different from replacement theory. Replacement theory is the idea that black people or Jewish people are replacing white people. That is racist. That is saying that it's just their race alone that's the problem. It is not racist to talk about how certain ethnic groups tend to vote certain ways. And even Democrats are doing this for the last 25 years. This is what they said. I think it was Roy Teixeira who wrote her book, the emerging Democratic majority, about how it was going to be all these different minorities voting Democrat.
Yeah.
This is not replacement theory, but if they get rid of that distinction, then they can conflate normal conservative talking points with replacement theory, and that's not the case.
Yeah.
It's not a mainstream conservative view. So anyway, Joe Biden visited the site of the Buffalo shooting. It's honestly hilarious how Democrats are trying to spin this one. It's like, they're like, well, you know where the shooting took place, Pallavi? It took place in Buffalo. And, you know, Buffalo is named after buffaloes. And people eat buffalo wings. You know who likes buffalo wings? People in the South. You know who the people in the South vote for? They vote for Republicans, and therefore Republicans caused the shooting. Like, it's such twisted, like, link chain logic.
Yeah, it's bizarre. I mean, I think this administration is pretty much grasping at straws and going like, how can we distract the populace so that they just don't focus on the issues that we fail to handle, right? Like inflation and crime and foreign policy and
but you see, gun violence
education.
just isn't an issue that tends to galvanize voters.
Not yet, anyway.
I don't think it ever will be, unfortunately, because it's a very memorable issue when it makes the headlines. The problem is, unless you've been personally impacted by it, it tends not to qualify as something that's impacting your day-to-day life, and therefore it's not reflected in your vote. Because that's what swings elections. Like I said, it's what is happening to me right now, who is in power right now.
No, I actually disagree with that, Ishaan, because I feel that if there's going to be, if there's continues to be so many mass shootings where people start feeling unsafe about sending their kids to school, if they don't think that, the government's doing anything, they're going to start looking for leaders that actually come up and say, we're going to go do something about this. And then I think this will be an issue that is, debated and contested.
So I think we actually agree on the bigger part of that, which is until it becomes an issue that tends to impact people's day-to-day lives.
Right. I mean, I think it still does. I think that it's not that it doesn't impact their lives. I think it is a topmost concern. In fact, from most parents that I speak with, it is a huge concern, because mass shootings are not just in poor neighborhoods or in, like bad crime-ridden neighborhoods. They're everywhere. They're in, they're in well-to-do cities because of mental health issues or whatever. So it's an issue that is pretty close to home for a lot of folks.
Yeah, speaking of mental health issues, this white supremacist shooter, there was actually a law on the books. It's called the New York State Red Flag Law. He had actually committed to doing a school shooting when he was in high school, and he was going to do a mass shooting and then a suicide. He was evaluated by a psychiatrist. They let him go. They didn't enforce it. The red flag law, it would have prevented him from being able to obtain a firearm. They didn't enforce it. So it actually ties back to their soft on crime policies. Okay, because if they had actually been enforcing the law, which was already on the books, this guy never would have been able to get a hold of his rifle. Anyway, speaking of the issues where Democrats just try to play the race card, inflation, which is really, really bad. They're not going to do anything different, but to ease your concerns, Joe Biden has appointed a black woman to the Federal Reserve.
Jesus.
Of course, her name is Lisa Cook. Now, she will do nothing different to tackle it, but she is a black woman. And if that doesn't make you so happy, if I wanted to look for a black woman who was going to do nothing, I would be looking at Kamala Harris.
We just went over
We already did this one. He did it with Kamala Harris, Ketanji Brown Jackson. Now his Fed Reserve, and now he has also done it with Jen Psaki's replacement. So as you know, Jen Psaki jetted off to MSNBC to parrot about how Fox News is running the Great Replacement Theory. And Biden hired Kareem Jean-Pierre as his new press secretary. This is the most prominent thing that she needed to talk about on her first day.
I am obviously acutely aware that my presence at this podium represents a few firsts. I am a Black, gay, immigrant woman, the first of all three of those to hold this position. Representation does matter. You hear us say this often in this administration, and no one understands this better than President Biden.
Interesting. So out of all the accomplishments, you can tell me the two that you choose to focus on are that you're a woman and that you're Black. Wow.
No, that's not fair. She's also an immigrant, and she's also gay.
Oh, okay. Sorry, missed those.
But no, seriously, I mean, she can't, she's going to talk about what she's going to do differently. Is she going to talk about Biden's approval rating? Is she going to talk about any of the current issues that Americans have? No, just your intersectionality check marks.
Yeah.
Just,
I mean, like, I'm not sure who they think they're helping by putting out like press releases like this. They're just, further solidifying the narrative that all you need is to be of a certain color in order to succeed now. I mean, like, aren't they, what is this?
I think it was Amala Ekpenobi who did a really great take on this, where she basically talked about how when we do affirmative action, the problem is you're actually solidifying racism in the country because you have a bunch of people now walking around looking at their African colleagues and thinking, did you get this job because of your merit or did you get this job because you're Black? And this is not helping. By appointing incompetent people to these roles, I don't care that they're Black. I would rather hire on merit first. That's just my opinion, but I think that it's a pretty good opinion.
No, I completely agree. I mean, meritocracy should trump everything, everything else. As a matter of fact, why do you have to talk about it, right? People can see the color of your skin. I mean, if you actually let's even say that this is done behind the scenes and there is a deliberate attempt to have increased representation, let's increase diversity. Nothing wrong with that. But then let people just still judge you on your accomplishments. Why do you have to come out and say, and by the way, look at me, I am Black and I am gay and I'm a woman?
Well, because you know why? Because they want the headlines. They want the headline that says first Black, gay, woman, immigrant to be a point. But you know what? I have a bigger question. What is a woman?
Did she see a biologist before she did?
Is she a biologist?
No, but did she go visit an actual biologist that confirmed that? Yeah.
How does she know that she's a woman? Does she identify as an immigrant, though? I mean, look, Democrats race baiting. This is not the man bites dog story of the year, okay? But this is the same stunt, pulling the race card, that they tried to do with the Freedom to Vote Act. This is the same stunt they tried to do it with queerness, with the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida about a month ago. Nobody cares. People see right through this, and as soon as the headlines fade away, they're like, yeah, look, gas is $12 a gallon. Get out of office. So anyway, let's move on to official predictions. This is the Pegasus Brave official take on what is going to happen come November. Now, I'm curious to hear your opinion. We haven't discussed this prior to the show. I think Republicans are going to take over the House by a landslide. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I would.
Okay, so Republicans are taking over the House. That one's not in the question. For the Senate, I think... Now, the thing about the Senate is there's not a lot of races going on. So it's sort of like... It's a bit more stable.
Yeah.
Right? So I think Democrats, they're probably going to either maintain their 50-vote threshold with Kamala Harris being her tiebreaker. Or Republicans might even cut that down.
Yeah.
So they might actually become the majority. No matter what, I don't think anyone is going to achieve 60 votes, though.
Yeah. But just because of the reasons you said, right? Like,
right.
They're just not
the
that
Senate
many.
is just fairly stable in general, which is a good thing. That it helps serve as like a check on very extreme legislation.
Yeah, but I wouldn't underestimate the Democrats, sort of trash talking between now and November to swing their electoral, swing the votes towards themselves, because like we've seen, they're capable of making a lot of noise and, passing a lot of blame to everybody.
Right, but I think what's more important here is why don't we actually look further down the line to 2024? Because here's the thing. If Congress goes out of Biden's control, he's not able to enact any legislation. We basically have to act as like the barriers to extremism. He's not going to get reelected in 2024, is he? He is going to be in a significantly disadvantaged position, and the Republican Party will be there to sweep in and say, look at all these terrible things that the president has done.
But again, like, I'm not that convinced that that Americans are ready for Donald Trump again.
I'm not either. This is why I've been championing DeSantis as a great Republican primary candidate. But even if it was Trump v. Biden, I think that even Trump might have a chance of winning again just because of how current all of Biden's issues are.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, again, it depends, right? Like, yes, if the current fiasco train continues, then I agree with you. You know, there's a good chance that we might see Trump back in office. If, however, that the Democrats do get their act together and they address some of these issues and they throw out some of that insanity that they're talking about, I think people are going to, and be able to restore some of that trust. I think I think there's still like a big barrier to entry for Trump to come back.
Perhaps. Yeah. But anyway, we'll see how it goes, and we look forward to bringing you more midterm-related reports as they become available. Thank you for watching.
Hey folks, Pallavi here. Thanks for watching this episode of Politics Corner. If you enjoyed this video, please like and comment. And if you want to see more videos like it, subscribe and click the notification bell so you know whenever Pegasus Brave releases a new video. Also, if you want to see more of our daily content, follow us on social media. Links in the description. We'll see you next time. Bye.